Why, hello there, everyone. Do you find that your tastes are a bit exotic? Do you find the limitations of flesh discouraging? Do you get excited at the prospect of kissing furry boys in a dystopian future? Well, theoretical viewer, your weirdly specific tastes have found an answer. I'm sure you heard of mods. No, not those mods. Closer, but not quite. There we go, good old video game mods. Who doesn't love a good video game mod? Sometimes you just don't have the wherewithal to really care about things like tonal or artistic consistency. Why worry about that highbrow bullshit when you can be Crystal the Fox in Left 4 Dead 2? No! Just as God intended. And now Cyberpunk 2077 can join the illustrious ranks of games with modded furries in it. This mod was done by Cobalt Owl, who has a Patreon that you should totally subscribe to. The mod is titled Biosculpted Exotics on the Nexus, and oh, did you hear that? That's the sound of millions of normies all shrieking at once. But what are they saying? Well, let's take a listen. Furries ruin everything!
Yiffin' helicopters, fur frag! This shit's all over the lore. Why do furries have to corrupt everything they touch?
Shut up, nerd. It's lore accurate. Let me just push up my non-existent glasses like an anime character for added effect while I say this.
You thought you had justifiable reason for dismissal, but we got lore on our side this time.
That's right. This time you can't blame the fandom for this mod. Exotics are integrated in the lore of Cyberpunk 2077. It's like the inverse of Omelas, where a small fraction of the population lives in bliss while everybody else lives in a hellscape dystopia. It's certainly been a hot minute since Cyberpunk had its award-winning debut on the scene.
Don't do this!
But I assure you, the mod scene is vibrant and full of talented people who have more patience than I can ever imagine to work with this broken-ass game engine. You got a variety of different species with this. Included are the classic fox and wolf, the big-eared version of the fox, the tiger, and the panther. So there's a couple of the more popular options out on the table for us fine appreciators of the fur, but some of you furries with the more indie species choices might be feeling a bit jaded. But, much like an art school student who only watches obscure indie flicks, you can sleep easy knowing that your fursona, based on an obscure species of animal, is clearly superior to us dirty mainstreamers. Also, since I'm sure most of you are already asking, the no-no parts on these characters have not been added in. Can't really say anything more than that because of YouTube's policy. Also, as a quick aside, I would also highly recommend using the third-person mod on the Nexus for Cyberpunk. It's called JB-TPP WIP mod third person, because it's not a real professional mod without having a bunch of abbreviations and redundancy in the title. All jokes aside, it's a pretty good mod, especially if you actually want to see your gloriously furred body. Just be aware that the third person mod does have a few other mods that need to be installed first for it to work. Nothing good is ever easy after all. Except a fox. They're pretty easy. Yes, me make very funny comedy joke. Was your cue to laugh, viewer. In any case, I digress. The Biosculpted Exotics mod also changes a few NPCs in the world.
Compiled your BDF. What do you think? Will it do? Still pretty raw, but yeah, ought to do.
Mm-hmm. V needs to get deep inside. That's most important.
So, let's calibrate. Tune it to him.
Guess Judy is a bit of a furry fan. That's right, normies. The furries have come for your cyberpunk waifus now. Nothing is too far from our grasp. You'll live every waking moment in fear, knowing we'll turn your precious fictional waifus into furries. And it looks like Judy isn't the only furry fan out in Night City. Just take a look at this guy tearing up the dance floor.
See? Hello?
That's the dance of somebody who just got told they're the designated driver for the night. I also find that some of our exotic friends really don't seem to get the hint very well. It's one of those things you'd have to see to believe. Alright, you ready for this big guy?
Yeah.
Broski, what are you waiting for? We're two male furries in a restroom. Don't act like you've not been to FA. You've not seen the furry comics before. You know how this goes. Sadly, no respect for tradition, these folk, but thankfully, Night City does prove it's as welcoming and friendly as ever to new faces. In Night City, everybody is equally worthless under the eyes of the corporate overlords. We're all just a bunch of dirty, filthy little consumers. Persecution is officially over in Night City. We roam the streets freely, adding just a bit more dystopia to the year 2077. To quote a concerned netizen, "Do you think God stays in heaven because he, too, lives in fear of what he's created?" I'd say that's only known to God alone, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. Regardless, it was heartening to see so many of my brothers in fur enjoying the ambiance of Night City, and so many more of us than I thought I'd see. What's up, my fur brother? That curb is something else, man, am I right? Digging the tank talk, by the way. Do the real MVP. Hashtag Foxes for life. Now, naturally, in this new environment, I knew my odds of converting normies to the ways of the fur was within my grasp. And being the compassionate fox that I am, I felt it was my duty to try and convert some of these lost individuals to the fold. Though my first attempt didn't go quite as well as I expected. Hey dude, want some yiff? What? Persecution! Persecution! Somebody help the furry ads! I'm being persecuted! Also, don't mind me just channeling the powers of Mr. Fantastic in my getaway. After that run-in, it became clear to me that my visit to the city that never sleeps, or YIFs, needed a new approach. So I set off to a familiar locale, full of newfound determination and a bold new approach to this confounding quandary. Sir, please, a moment of your time!
It's fucking city!
People told me that pulling a gun was just Night City-style persuasion. Sadly, I was left empty-handed again. My unique style of persuasion seems to have only led to the curb claiming yet another chunk of an unsuspecting vehicle. My hopes were dashed, and soon I'd have to concede defeat to the resilient spirit of Night City. But then it occurred to me that I was taking the wrong approach. Perhaps the good people of Night City might be more receptive to some good old-fashioned capitalism. And if I know Night City, the more direct approach is often the most successful. Sir, a moment of your time, please.
No, please, no.
Can I interest you in a Fur Affinity Plus subscription? The benefits include posting in 4K resolution and larger avatars! Alas, he resisted the allure of Fur Affinity Plus. Once more, my hopes were dashed, and yet another normie was allowed the pass with his humanity intact. Where does that leave us, though? What do I think of the Biosculpted Exotics mod overall? Pretty good, pretty fun. The models that are added are pretty high quality as far as I'm concerned. There's been an appreciable amount of effort put into the mod, and the exotic models don't seem to contrast too much with the rest of the assets in the game. The variety of species, I confess, might be a bit of a small sore point with some people, and the customization options for each species is far more limited than that of the base humans. But considering how much work must have gone into the models, I can't blame the modder too much for it. To expect the sheer amount of customization options that come with the base game in a mod made by a single person is hardly indicative of realistic expectations from a mod. The addition of exotic-themed posters, NPCs, and ads also helps with immersion, helping the content to appear as a seamless part of the world. It's really that additional touch and attention to detail that really helps to let the mod really shine and stand out among other modded content. It's also fairly polished, and at least in my experience, there's not too many bugs aside from the bugs that are inherent to the game itself. Of course, as mentioned, I'd certainly recommend the third-person mod and the mod that lets you skip through the loading screens that insist on wasting your time every single time you start up the game. I don't know about you, but I do love me a good furry-themed glamour shot. I'm a sucker for the suits, sue me. Skeevy corpos at least know how to dress nice. Gotta hand them that. With that, that's all I got for the video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, consider commenting and subscribing, because it does really help the channel out. And it's very appreciated, of course. Or give it a dislike if you disliked it. All feedback is appreciated. The next mod video will feature an Elden Ring furry-themed mod that I think will be of some interest to furries out there. I know that it's been a wildly successful game, and that Blade has certainly been the subject of a few particular art pieces, shall we say. Regardless, that should be a pretty fun video. There's quite a few lesser-known furry mods out there, and plenty of furry modded content that I'm sure will be of interest to the furry community. And I'm always glad to shine a light on them. So, hopefully this is a series of videos I can go to from time to time that furries might have an interest in. Till then, I'm Vairyn the Vulpine, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.